Hi. Nicotine is one of the most used substances in the world. I myself have struggled with nicotine for over a decade. I started playing with smoking around when I was 19 years old. It quickly became a habit. I would always wonder, why did I have such a big craving for nicotine? Like, what was the secret of nicotine? What was the magic in it? Because I always struggled with smoking. I had this compulsion to smoking. I would stop and start, stop and start. I would smoke for 6 months, then I would stop for 5 months, then I would start again. I did this for 10 years. I would have periods even for 1 year where I would not smoke. Then I would start again. There was a period 5 years ago where I would smoke a lot.
Yeah. How hard was that? Because you used to smoke a lot.
I was a good smoker. I was so good at it. Like, I was like, man.
It's a skill,
I
really.
could have taken, if there was professional smoking, I bet I could have won something.
Really? Wow.
Like almost a pack a day. Plus I was using snus, which you put here in your upper lip. So I was like a nicotine addict, for sure. The amount of nicotine I used was enormous. So it was always like a monkey on my back. Many people with ADHD do self-medicate themselves with nicotine. It was around 5 years ago when I learned about nootropic benefits of nicotine. There's a Canadian physician, Peter Attia, that has talked about nicotine. He likes to chew gum when he does some work. So after quitting smoking, it was 2018, I started using different nicotine delivery products. There's a lot of them. There's so many ways to get nicotine besides smoking. Besides smoking, you can use snus or dip, which are very unhealthy, but there's also a lot of products in the pharmacies. For example, patches, gum, sprays, pouches. I used all of these products. The worst one was sprays. The reason why nicotine has such a bad reputation is because it's usually used by smoking. And cigarettes have so many poisons in it. There's so many different poisons in cigarettes. Nicotine itself doesn't cause cancer. But the methods how you get nicotine, like smoking and snus, they're the ones that kill you. The interesting about nicotine is that it can be protective in some cognitive impairments if used in the right doses. For example, Parkinson's disease. It's amazing that nicotine can actually protect brain cells from damage, which can reduce risk of Parkinson's disease. What's even more amazing is that we have nicotinic receptors in our brain. Neurochemical effects of nicotine are pretty interesting. Nicotine triggers the release of dopamine in nucleus accumbens area of the brain. This increases overall well-being, alertness, motivation. This is why so many people are addicted to caffeine and nicotine use, because it's a very high dopamine activity that provides the user with lots of mental benefits. I used to work in a warehouse, and I would say 80% of my coworkers were heavy nicotine users, smoking or snus or both. And surprise, surprise, they were also very effective workers. There was one guy, I will never forget him. He was like a Superman of our workplace. He smoked a lot, like every half hour he would go smoke. Then on top of that, he would drink lots of coffee every break. I don't know if he's still alive, but he really smoked a lot, drank a lot of coffee, but he was a very effective worker. He was like, Superman. Nicotine itself is a very powerful mood modulator. If you ever tried quitting nicotine, you know how hard it is. It almost feels impossible because nicotine provides you so much dopamine. That is a big reason you have trouble quitting, because when you quit smoking, you feel not so good. You can't concentrate. Your mood is down. Like everything's down when you stop smoking. You're not the same person.
I quit smoking about a week ago, and I can't do anything right. I thought you quit smoking. Well, it looks like I have no willpower.
And nicotine also activates other neurotransmitters. Acetylcholine decreases attention, concentration, memory. Norepinephrine, Epinephrine, which increase energy, alertness, arousal. So you see how powerful nicotine is. And the effects last about half hour to 45 minutes. This is why so many people at work always have to smoke every break. The levels drop and they have to raise the levels again. Now, my take on nicotine. What is my opinion about nicotine? I've had a love-hate relationship with nicotine all my life. There are times when I still use it for my advantage. These days I use only gum or pouches. To me, they're the best delivery methods of nicotine for myself. Nicotine can be very powerful for productivity and for ADHD. It has served me well. It does increase sharper focus, even creativity sometimes. Many times I take a half a piece of gum and I chew on it and I start writing. And I have been very productive on it. I have written a lot of stuff on nicotine. So for me, it was very beneficial when I was studying and had to write a lot. If I need a little boost from my brain, I will take a little piece of gum or maybe a pouch. And I will never go over 6 milligrams. To me, that's a maximum dose. Usually, if I do some, very deep work with nicotine, I usually use like 4 or 6 milligrams in a day. But I should take a lot more. I mean, the amount of nicotine I should take is probably lethal. Because I also used to take snus, which is very unhealthy and provides you lots of nicotine. The biggest problem for me for nicotine is that it increases my hyperactivity and anxiety very easily. The anxiety part is the worst, so I don't take it anymore in social situations. It decreases blood pressure, heart rate, which sucks because when your heart rate is very elevated, I feel very stressed. So it gives you this sharper focus, more energy, but then it gives you the stress, the anxiety, mental benefits, but with physical side effects. I'm very sensitive to nicotine. Even small doses can make me very anxious. More productive, but more anxious. So this is why I'm very careful with nicotine. It's an amazing nootropic, but it has some drawbacks. Also, playing with dopamine can have negative consequences. I talk from personal experience that tolerance will build. If you're a fan of, for example, vaping, you can create a huge addiction for yourself. Then when you try to stop, it's going to be very hard because you've had so much dopamine release. Addiction potential is very big, especially if you're a person who are prone to addiction. Nicotine can be very addictive. And I know from experience, nowadays I tend to use it less frequent. Sometimes I do use it, sometimes I don't. But I definitely don't use it daily anymore. So nicotine has some benefits if used right. But I advise you to be careful. It can be great for like schoolwork or something like that. Personally, I use it sometimes. But less frequent these days. So it's a small tool in my toolbox, but not as big anymore as it used to be. So if you have any questions or comments, just write it down below, and I will talk to you next time. Take care and bye.
Oh, are you still smoking? You know what? It's so weird. And listen.